Hello. It's been a little while since I made a video. I've been working on an editor for my game engine over the last 3 weeks. This game engine is written in Go. It was originally written in C, and I ported it to Go, and I really like Go, so I started making an editor for it. Um, when I ported it to C++, my Go version ran faster than my C++ version. I can't really explain it, other than I wrote it in C and Go is C-like, and so I guess it just has better optimization because that's just how I designed the language, or all the code was to be C-like and procedural. So um, that's likely why it was running. It runs faster than my C++ version of the same exact engine. It's all the same code straight across, just different language. Um, I also tested it against Unity's default output. I think Unity's default, when you just launch Unity and build a release mode game with a cube and a black background, it's like 600 frames per second, and mine with the same exact thing is about 55,400 frames per second. And I did push Unity after that. I pushed it to try and get it as fast as possible. I got it up to 1,600 frames in Unity. Um, and I did have a full game, like a PBR. It was PBR lit with shadows, full gameplay, audio, custom cursors, the whole works as a multiplayer like Sudoku game that I set up, and that ran at about 2,700 frames per second, so an entire um, running PBR game, better than the fastest black background single cube game in Unity. So I just kept pushing on this Go thing because the numbers, I have the data to back it up. The numbers just don't lie. I've made the same thing in 3 different languages. So anyways, it's a great language. Really love using it. Very easy to use. Anyways, let's go on. I'm going to create a project here called Rocky Start, and then we're just going to stop, and we are going to create a folder, Rocky Start, and I'll select that folder for my project. So when you create a project, you'll see this 3D viewport. By the way, this editor is not production ready. You can go get it and play around with it and everything. It has a full loop, and you can do all the coding and everything. But the engine itself is production ready because I've made games in it. The editor is very much a work in progress. So if you're getting to play around with it. Maybe learn it a little bit, see how it's going, that sort of stuff. So I have a log window here. You can see it shows different colors for whenever certain logs come in. So this is a warning. In my HTML code, I didn't bind this function. So I know I just said HTML there. There's no V8 engine or any kind of nonsense from there. I wrote a custom UI. My entire UI system is completely custom, handwritten. I optimized it as much as humanly possible. It's very fast, and you write your UI in HTML and CSS, and I created parsers for all of those. So this whole thing, that's what allows me to do these UIs pretty easily. It's all retained mode, so it's very fast, and it's very easy to write with HTML and CSS. I gotta be honest. Anyways, let's create some content. So I'm gonna go to content, and let me find this folder. Okay, and I just paste it in there. Go to meshes. Oh yeah, this file browser. It's a custom file browser. The @ sign is a refresh button. I haven't made an icon for it. These are back, forward, and up a directory, that sort of stuff. Try to create quick access stuff on the side. But yeah, this just makes it so it's cross-platform. You'll notice that I don't do pop-up windows. I've done editors before on other engines that I've made, and I don't like pop-up windows anymore. I like Blender's layout. You can tell I'm very inspired by Blender here. So, anyways, we're gonna import this rock that I made. I made this cool little rock in plasticity and hand painted the textures on it. Well, we can take a look at it real quick, see what it looks like, if you guys want to see this nice little rock that we have here. Not the best. I mean, kind of pixely, but the game was going to be like a low poly kind of game sort of thing. But let's go back and take a look at what what you can do here inside of the content. So when I imported, I have a little bug where this icon is supposed to be in the top left, similar to what it is here. So whatever, I'll figure out why that happens whenever you import in the content folder. You'll notice we have no folders. There's no folder structure. Like if you go into Unreal or Unity, you're going to have folders down at the bottom, and you have to sort and manage all these folders and where you're going to place stuff. That's just all busy nonsense work to me that I absolutely hate. So there's no folders. Everything you just import, they all come in here. I'm going to create helpers to make it nice and easy to work in here. So when I import stuff, it'll be in a top section at the top, so you see exactly what you just imported, and then all the rest of the content at the bottom, stuff like that. You're probably also wondering, okay, without folder structures, how you organize this stuff. Well, the base first part is that you would use these filters here, which allow you to say, I want to look at all the textures, I want to look at the meshes in the textures. So you have these filters that you can start off with. And then the second thing you have are tags. So I can go to, let's say this rock mesh. I know it's a mesh because it's got a little cube. This is the texture icon. This is a material icon. So anyways, I can select that. And I can say this has a rocks and a stones. These X's are supposed to be on the right side. I don't know why they're doing that. I'll fix that later. And then let's say that I want to add this to the rocks. I can press R. You'll see that it shows all of the tags that have already been typed, so you can just quickly select, make sure that they're the same. You can click the X to remove them. Again, that's supposed to be over here on the right. So now that we have set up these, you'll notice these pop up down here in this tag section. I can select rocks, I can see what's in there, I can select stones, I can select rock and stones. I can type them out. This text is offset. There's a few little quirks I've got to work out with my UI layouts, but function over beauty right now. And then you can search content. Use a solid. I can search for the solid stuff. And yeah, so let's say that you wanted to create prototype data for some specific map. I don't know, some water map. You can go in here, type in water prototype, and then have all your water prototype stuff in that. And then later on, I plan on you being able to delete entire tags. So you can select this, say delete everything that has this tag, like actually delete the content itself, so that you can get rid of those large swaths of things that you have for prototype data or whatever. We'll have all that options. So the next thing we're going to do that we're going to have in this content section is you have a reimport. So if you have your file, your source file, wherever you imported this from, that source file exists right there, whatever you're doing. You just modify that source file, and you can click this reimport. And if the file is relative to the project path, okay, so like if you have, I don't know, like an artwork folder in here, and that's where you have this stuff, and then you want to commit that to Perforce, and then you want to commit all your code and everything else to Git. Some people do that. You have your artwork folder. This reimport path will be relative. So if you're sharing your content files across Perforce from that artwork folder, anybody will be able to reimport from the relative original file, and that will import it into the database. So the reimport, essentially, if I go and I mess with this 3D model and change the texture and click reimport, and it'll overwrite the file to the new version of it, and that can be that goes into the content database. So the last thing is when you go in here, you'll notice there's a lot of blank space here on the right. That's because I'm still working on it, and what's going to be available is when I select something like texture here. If I want that texture to be pixel art, and if I want it to be compressed in a certain way, like I want it to be all PNGs or ASTCs or whatever, there'll be options here. So I could select this texture, and I could click a drop down and say it's pixel art, which means that it'll use the nearest neighbor algorithm instead of a linear one whenever it loads up the texture. So content relative details like that will show up over here. The reimport will probably be moved. It'll probably be above the reimport, and that gets shoved down or whatever, but that'll allow you to change your content and how you want it to be used, all here instead of the content workspace. I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, but I'm heavily inspired by Blender. Makes it very easy, and the concept is workspaces. So this is the stage workspace where you do your stage stuff and you set up your world. Content is where you do content related stuff. Shading is where you're going to do shading stuff, animation stuff. UI is going to allow you to preview as you code your HTML and CSS stuff. It'll live preview update and show you what it would look like inside of a viewport. Settings, project, and editor settings, all of that. I also don't know if I mentioned right here at the top is a 3D button. If you click that, it goes to 2D mode. So you can go between 2D and 3D. If you're making a 2D game, you do it in this mode. If you do 3D, it's going to be in this mode. Sorry, there's a lot to go over. I don't know if I'm just rambling on. But you're able to go over here. It looks like my scroll is messed up, but there's going to be the tags that you created are going to be down here at the bottom of this guy here. So you do the same kind of filtering that you do over there. I'm going to have options so that this can be lists instead of icons. We'll get to that. You'll notice the little V allows you to collapse these parts of this workspace. And in the stage workspace in particular, you can press H to show and hide the hierarchy, D to show and hide the details, and C to show and hide the content. When you select an object, you'll have that object's content over here. You can rename it, see that it comes over here. If I created another rock there, I can call this rock 2. You see I have rock and rock 2 now, and I can make rock 2 a child of rock, as you can see here. And when I select the parent rock, the outline will be over both of them. You'll notice that I have a nice little fancy kind of screen space outline for objects. All the normal like Blender controls, you press G to grab. You can lock it to an axis with X, Z, Y. Of course, Y is up for me because I want things to be fast and I'm working inside of Vulkan. Everything's Vulkan in here. You'll notice when I select a parent, the children highlight so you know that you've selected a parent. Lots of different stuff like that. So what we're going to do is now we're going to create some code, right? That's where entity data comes in. So if I want to make some code for this rock, let's say I want to rotate it around the y-axis, this rock here, so that hopefully the child will spin around if everything goes correctly in this demo. I can do that up at the top. So first I'm going to save my stage just because why not? Oh boy. Okay, well that crashed just because I'm in the middle of messing with stuff and trying to show things off at the same time. Anyways, we'll come back here and we'll create a rock again. Let's see, put our rock there. And now we will save this stage as main. And now we have a main stage. You'll see it popped up. Oh, I have that little bug where it comes down to the bottom again. Oh, not on this one. Interesting. So now we have our main stage. The main stage is the entry point to your game. But let's make some code. So if you come up here to File and Create Entity Data, you'll be given some prompts to fill out. And I'm going to make a rotate entity data. And I'm going to make it inside of a new folder called transform. This is inside of my project, as you see, Rocky Start Source Transform. So that's where I'm going to create my rotate. And when you click create, it will create the file using our templating system and fill out all the relevant details that you need to do, like the registration of the entity data, and then create the interface function, the init function. So the first thing we want to do here is create a speed float 32, and you'll see I have a couple hints here. You can create an update through accessing it this way, or you can get your game pointer by calling host.game. That's all nice, but we're going to do host.updater.add update, and we're just going to put this directly in here, inline function delta time. We're going to get the rotation from the entity.transform rotation. We're going to set the y to the current y plus our d, which is our object we're going to be binding, our structure we're binding, d.speed times delta time, and then we will do entity.transform.set rotation to the new rotation. Now that I've done that and saved it, we can come back to the editor, and you'll notice that it's gone through the code and found the data. So if I select here and go to rotate, you'll see tiny little text, transform rotate, and when I click on that, you'll see that now we have a rotate entity data here, and we have that speed field. And I will say I want it to turn 45 degrees every second because I'm multiplying by delta time there. So now I've added that data to this object. Let's save our stage again. And I could build and run. I can build the game. I can build and run the game, and this will go through the main entry point. And I can also run current stage. So if you want it, if you just have a stage you're currently on, stage is like a level or a map or whatever you want to call it. It'll run the one that is currently in the viewport. So if I say run the current stage, that goes through. It compiles the game, builds the game, and runs the game. And so here it is. And it's running that code that we just applied to it. So if I wanted to, I can come in here and I say, let's rotate a little faster, 90 degrees, and let's run the current stage. And you'll see that it runs, it rotates a little faster. So I've got this full cycle in my editor for the engine itself. There's there's engine code, and then there's editor code, and the editor uses the engine to do everything. Like if I wanted to do a small sample to show you how the UI system works, we can take a look at this UI, the stage UI, real quick. So let's see, let's go to this one, and we can go to stage workspace.html. And you'll see it's just regular old HTML and CSS stuff. So we've got you don't have to inline this style in here. I'm just lazy, and so it's all in here, so I have it all in one file. You can actually include this the same way you would on a web page, where you reference a CSS file, and it could be local to the HTML itself or whatever. So we have a bunch of our CSS for the styles. We have the toggle at the top of the screen for the dimension. You'll see it uses the dimension toggle ID. If you come up here, you'll see dimension toggle. It's absolute, font size, blah, 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 blah. You'll also see that I support the, I don't know what these are called, the pseudos, the functions, whatever they're called, the like dot hover, or the dot or the colon hover, colon active. And if we look at like the file system, file browser, you'll see that I also support things like nth child, odd, all that. So I've hand coded how this stuff works. So it reads this in through a parser. I'm using somebody else's CSS parser, and I'm using the built-in HTML parser in Go. So a little less work for me, but we take this parser and we convert it into Enginese, and we get all kinds of really cool just UI that pops up naturally if you're used to doing web UI. It's also a lot more flexible than, say, a drag and drop interface, a WYSIWYG, what you see is what you get editor, just because it's all pure code, and it's very easy to lay out stuff and change things and not have to deal with a bunch of GUI stuff trying to make your UIs. So you'll see that IDs are supported, classes are supported, events like on click, on drag start, on drop, like all that stuff is the stuff that I've already coded into the engine. Now there is stuff that's just not done. If I went over to like the CSS stuff, I don't know. You see Max is not implemented yet, so and these are pretty easy to implement. It's just there's a lot of them. CSS has a lot of stuff. Like if we look at properties, it goes on forever. There's a ton of stuff, and I'll have to get around to doing these things later. But the majority of the things that I use to lay out UI very easily is already in there, and everything in here is using this. So anyways, I could ramble on forever about this. I really love this stuff. Let me know what you think. If you want to check out the project, it is on GitHub. You can go to Kaiju Engine/Kaiju. I'll put a link in the description. I have some sample videos and stuff that I put in here. And I update quite often, especially 20 minutes ago. Um, I update all the time. Like, I'm obsessed with writing this stuff. It's a lot of fun. So, um, yeah, if you want to try out an engine that is incredibly fast, um, if you don't believe me, download it, create a game, test it out inside of RenderDoc, and take a look and see what it looks like. I was myself a little shocked at how fast Go is, but I've got it pretty fine-tuned where we're not creating garbage every frame. There's like no garbage being generated. And there's lots of ways to debug it. If you're interested in that, I'd have to show that in a separate video. There's so many tools. But cool, I'm going to keep on messing with this editor. Let me know if you have any ideas. If you like Go and you want to get into game programming, try it out. Give me some feedback. Join in. We have Discord. I have a mailing list if you want to join that. I do really detailed updates weekly right now. And we have Discord if you want to go check that out too. So, cool, man. Yeah, thanks. See you all later.